Good morning, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Read Me Live. I am your host, Sharifa Hardy, and we have an incredible show for you today. I'm having so much fun. I love the energy of a Friday. So happy Friday to everyone. Today's guest is going to talk about visualization, vision boards, and motivation. Good morning, Steve. How are you?
Doing great, Sharifa. Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here, and I'm definitely looking forward to our conversation.
I am looking forward to it as well. So tell our audience who you are and what you do.
Yeah, my name is Steve Gamlin, currently 57 years old. I live in southern New Hampshire. And when I was 11 years old, I wanted to be a radio DJ, a stand up
Okay.
comedian, an author, and a teacher of people, but not in a classroom.
Okay.
And I've been able to do that over the past 40 plus years, with crashing and burning in between a few of them, which led to the next level. So I currently enjoy being a keynote speaker,
Okay.
talking about positivity, visualization, motivation, manifestation, gratitude, kindness, and all of the ingredients that can put together a really successful and enjoyable life.
Oh, I love it. Now you have a radio voice, and I'm pretty sure that you've heard that before. And tell me, what is it that makes someone have a excellent voice for radio?
And first off, I accept that. I receive that with all the gratitude. The second is I always shake my head and say, I appreciate you saying that, but it's a darn shame I didn't actually have this voice when I was in the radio industry because I did not. I
Your
was
voice changed?
well, I did. I had no confidence in my voice at the time, and a couple of people had said, "Ugh, you
Hmm.
don't have a good radio voice." So I
Oh,
was in radio for 10 years. I was a rock morning show producer. I was a comedy writer,
okay.
but I never had the guts to actually get on the microphone as a show host
Okay.
to be a DJ. So I just kind of hung out in the shadows because my confidence wouldn't really let me get on the mic and use my real voice because I had allowed other people to tell me it wasn't a good voice
Okay.
until my 8th year of radio.
Hmm.
We took a classic rock station off of satellite and made it live, which was backwards of the industry.
Okay.
And we did it without the owner of the radio station's knowledge. So we spent a bunch of his money doing it. And he showed up one day and he actually heard it for a couple of days and he came in. He says, "You dodged a bullet. I love the station."
Oh, wow.
But then our morning guy quit.
Oh, wow.
And I said, "Well, I'll do the mornings." Now, I'd still never really been a DJ.
Hmm.
And what followed was the worst 4 mornings of rock radio you've ever heard in your life.
It was
Of
that
me
bad?
of me trying to sound like a DJ for every break between the music. And on the 5th morning, the Friday morning, I go, "Oh, here comes the wrecking ball." So I just threw it out there. I said, "Hey, everybody, Steve here, New Hampshire's classic rock, big 101.5.
Hmm.
I may stink as a DJ, but if you tolerate me reading the weather for the next 42 seconds, I'll play you a butt kicking rock song." And it just fell out like that. And I just shook my head going, "Well, that was fun." And my boss comes down, knocks on the door with the biggest smile on his face. He goes, "Brother, that was the funniest thing you said all week. Dude, just be yourself."
Right. Right. Right.
The
That's
moment that
always the
changed my
key.
life.
That's the key. And now
Yeah.
you teach people how to do the same thing.
Yeah. No, I just say, just be yourself.
Yes.
No matter what you're doing as a podcast host, as a
Right.
podcast guest, as a person on the radio, as a speaker, as a TikTok creator, as a writer, as anything, all you're supposed to do is share your authentic, genuine voice with the world, and you will find your audience if you do that.
Oh my God. I think that is just the confirmation. It's the verbalization of everything that I have discovered in creating this show. I launched my first podcast in 2009. I've done thousands of interviews, and I was like, but I never really found what I wanted to do and how I wanted to put it all together. I'm a third generation reader. My mom taught me how to read. I've been reading for about 30 years, So this show is just me being myself, bringing every 100% every aspect of who I am to a show. And for people like us, or sometimes people in general, when you say be yourself, it sounds so simple, right? The two words, it's two words. But so many people struggle with being their true, authentic self. What are some strategies and what are some tips that you can give people in order to make it easier for them?
Yeah, because I had to do this in the early 2000s. I had a successful 10-year radio career, which I blew into dust because I was fried and burnt out.
Okay.
At the same time, my first marriage was crumbling, and any shred of financial stability got absolutely demolished in my
Okay.
early 30s.
Mhm.
And I wound up moving back in with family for a bit, and
Mhm.
just like Wile E. Coyote in the old Roadrunner cartoons, where he would just blow up and fall off the cliff. That was me.
Right. Okay.
And I found out the best thing you can do is to unplug, turn
Mhm.
off all things electronic, grab
Mhm.
a pen and some paper or a notebook or a journal,
Mhm.
go somewhere quiet and relaxing with a minimum of distractions,
Mhm.
and just start writing down who you really are. Now, don't be brutal on yourself.
Okay.
I was, and I apologize for the language if it offends. According to my journals from the early 2000s, I referred to myself often as Hurricane Dumbass Category 5.
No, that's fine. I thought it was
That
going to
was
be
Oh,
far
no.
worse.
Oh, no, 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 no. But I was so self-deprecating
Mhm.
that even if I kept saying to myself, "I'm gonna make this work," my self-talk was
Mhm.
so damaging.
Mhm.
I couldn't catch a break, and I always wondered why. Why couldn't I have improved my life during those first couple of years? Well, look at the way I was talking to myself. So there was a day that I went to the beach,
Mhm.
left my phone in the car, had a notebook and a couple of pens, and the tide was way out, and I was in between two sets of jagged rocks. So as the tide came in, I got the sounds of waves crashing on the rocks in stereo,
Mhm.
and it was so relaxing. It was almost like spending $20 on one of those old relaxation CDs at the time.
Mhm.
And I sat there for a couple of hours, and I wrote 7.5 pages of
Wow.
who I wanted to be in all areas of my life, and the type of person, not just what I wanted to get, but who I wanted to become.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden I realized the water was up beyond me, and I had to climb over the rocks to get out. So thank God I didn't stay there any longer, because I would have been in big
Poor
trouble.
Steve would have washed away.
Oh yeah, I would have. I was surrounded by water, and I look around because I was so engrossed in my writing, and I went, huh, apparently there's not a lifeguard stand anywhere near these rocks, because nobody blew a whistle to tell me, hey, ding dong, get off the beach.
Okay. The water was your sign. But let me just
Yeah.
ask you one of the things. I first of all, before I even ask my question, let me just acknowledge I love your sense of humor. I love the
Thank you.
fact that you can laugh at those moments and you can find levity in these situations that other people would have really destroyed them. But one of the things that you talked about was moving in with family, right? And for somebody who has been laid off 8 times, I've gone through those challenges of living with family and having to depend on other people. Did you feel an added pressure to figure it out because you were with other people? Because I know sometimes people be like, what are you going to do, what's going to happen, what's going to did you have that added pressure?
In a way, I didn't, because shortly before I wound up crashing and burning everything, I
Okay.
had actually built a recording studio and an office in the basement of my dad and stepmom's home,
Oh, okay.
because they had plenty of room, and they knew that I was interested in building one. And they said, hey, come just take this whole side of our basement, a
Aw.
quarter of their basement.
Mhm.
And it turned out to be an amazing blessing. And it didn't take long to discover it, because my stepmom pulled me aside one day. And of course, I was concerned about infringing on their space and
Right.
interrupting their lives, but we're super close. And my
Okay.
stepmom said, look, there's no pressure on you to move out of here, but let me just tell you,
Mhm.
if you weren't living here, your dad and I, because my dad's health was starting to fail a little bit,
Mhm.
she said, in a couple of years, your dad and I might have had to sell this house, and that would break his heart.
Okay.
So there's no rush for you to leave.
Mhm.
And that just, it took so much pressure off. And it also allowed me, because I was working from the house in the basement,
Mhm.
in the studio, in the office, to mow the lawn for my dad, to clear
Aw.
their 450-foot driveway every time it snowed. When the snow got too deep on the roof, for me to climb up there, because he could not anymore, to clear the roof.
Right.
So it turned to be the safest and softest of landings, because I was able to provide value for them.
Right.
So it made it a lot more comfortable than maybe it could have been.
Mhm.
And also, our favorite Boston sports team started on a run of championships right about that time. So when dinner was ready, my stepmom would yell downstairs, "Yo!" Because my father would be in his carpentry workshop, and he'd open my studio door and go, "Did you get the yo, bud?" So we'd have dinner. We'd watch the Red Sox win or the Patriots on a Sunday or whatever. So it became this amazing cocoon
Uh,
when I got to be even closer to them than ever,
okay.
and pay them back in so many ways that allowed
Mhm.
them to stay in their home. So I was very blessed by it. Now I was more brutal on myself than they ever could have been to me.
Okay.
That was a longer gestation. The positive self-talk didn't start till June of 2011, when a dear friend staged an intervention after hearing me
You had an
brutalize.
intervention?
He had an intervention. Yeah, he and I just met 6 months prior to that. We just
Oh, wow.
became brothers right away. And he had a 3-day event, a small personal development event. He let me speak all 3 days. And on the third day, I was running out of material and I just woke up in a bad mood. So I went on about a 15-minute self-deprecating rant.
I knew the word rant was coming. That's
Oh,
always what
rant.
happens.
Yeah. Because I said one self-deprecating thing and I got laughs. So I kept going. And
Oh,
at
you were
the end of
feeding
the
into
event,
the energy.
at the end of the event, after the people had left, he pulled me aside. He put a chair in the center of a circle. He goes, "That one's yours." And I
I
thought,
like him.
okay. And he and the other 6 speakers destroyed me for destroying myself. And he told me point blank, he said, "Brother, if I ever hear you talking about yourself like I heard you today, you will have no space on a stage of mine ever, and we are no longer brothers."
Oh,
And I
so you
finally
got it.
got it.
You
I
got it.
finally
You
got it.
got it.
It took a
Oh,
it took a while. It wasn't like the clouds parted and the rays of light and the angels went,
right.
ah. Nope.
You needed a
But
whole intervention.
yeah, that was where the tide got turned.
Okay.
And now looking back, and,
Mhm,
and I see and hear those things I wrote or recorded back then,
mhm.
I don't fall back into going, "Oh my God, I was terrible. I was this, I was that." I look at it now and go, "Oh my gosh, that's adorable.
Oh,
Look at that." That was, if you put macaroni and glitter around those moments, my mom would
okay.
hang them on her fridge, because those are my kindergarten visualization, self-talk, confidence building first Legos in the pile.
So you learned though, but you
Yeah.
but you learned.
Yeah.
Um, I want to go back to this intervention.
Yeah.
Did you do anything professionally? Did you do anything different professionally after the intervention? Like, did you go and say, "Let me rewrite my material. Let me be more prepared. Let me like." What was there an actual item checklist of things that you felt you had to do so that you would be prepared the next time given this opportunity? Because you almost lost the ability to appear on stage.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't say so much that I retooled the topics or the stories. I just
Okay.
didn't take them down that darker road.
Okay.
I flipped the script and I made them more positive. Not that it was an ego boost or a pat on the back, but it was a way to shine a spotlight on the result and not the person that got there by some miracle because he's a moron.
Right.
That was kind of the approach that I had taken prior to that. So they would have these little self-deflecting punchlines almost. So I removed those and I found out the stories were actually even better
Oh wow.
without them.
I like that. So,
Yeah.
were you already teaching people about visualization and vision boards prior to this, or is this when you began teaching people about motivation and vision and visualization?
I'd been speaking at that time for a little over 5 years.
Okay, so
And it
some
was it was the infancy of me teaching visualization and things like that. I never got training, nor did I ever take anybody else's course or even read a book on visualization. I
okay.
learned that it even existed from about a 3-minute segment of the DVD version of The Secret in the early 2000s, where some guy
Okay.
named John Assaraf showed a picture of a vision board. And I went, huh, I'm a visual guy.
Okay.
I'll put my life back together using those. And trial and error and error and error and error and error and a few more errors, I figured out a way that worked for me. And then as other people saw my life getting better, they said, "Hey, can you show me how to do that thing?" And I would
Right.
just get on a phone call and teach them. And somebody one day said, "Oh my gosh, you should make a course to teach other people how to do that." I'm thinking, yeah, that would be good because just one-on-one over the phone for free is not going to serve my business very well.
Not your business
So,
model. I get
yeah.
it. And I'm resonating so much with what you had to say because I've come a long way. And what I'm doing now, my mom was like, you should do this 20 years ago, and now 20 years later, it's time I'm matured into it. But I just listed my course today where I'm actually teaching people how to read the cards.
Wow.
And it actually is so funny. That's why I love doing what I'm doing. I'm so happy where I am in life, but I was on an interview, doing an interview yesterday, and we were discussing it. And the person said, it's like you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. You teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. And I said, you know what? I love reading, but maybe I am kind of giving people fish, and sometimes, I will continue to do readings, but I said, well, if I teach people how to read, then they can eat for a lifetime. So I got up this morning, hit the gym. That's what I have to do to get in my zone at about 5 a.m. Came back and I started working on this class. So on January 11th, 2026 is going to be my first real huge class where I teach people how to read the cards.
I love that. That is all. And I also get up. Well, I get up at 5:05,
Okay.
or it's close, but I work out at least every Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. And I find that's where some of my most amazing ideas come from.
Yes.
And I listen to positivity and it encourages me in the morning. Even if my eyes aren't all the way open yet, my brain, my heart, my
Yes.
soul, and my gut are all working and my body's already flowing. I don't drink coffee. I kind of wake up like this every day, although I do,
So do I.
I drink a little caffeine around midday.
Okay.
But yeah, I love that. And, we can beat ourselves up and say, oh, I should have done this 20 years ago.
Yes.
Nope. 20 years ago, it wouldn't have worked because you weren't this
Right.
version of yourself yet.
Yes, it wouldn't have worked. And now, even when I talk to people, I was talking to this group of college kids the other day about reading, and they were asking me about certain meanings of the cards. And I said, just know that the meaning of the cards will change over time. Because how can you talk to people about their marriage if you've never been on a date? How can you
Yes.
talk to people about their careers if you've never held a job? So as your experience changes, as your experience evolves, so will the understanding of the signs and the symbols and the messages that you receive. The other aspect, Steve, that I was relating to is that I too am a very visual person. And I believe that a lot of people, especially when you're dealing with areas of faith and spirituality, they have to see it to believe it. They have to see it to really understand the message. So for me, that's why, some people, they just do whatever they do. They don't use cards. I love using the cards because I can say, look, Steve, you see, this is what it says, and it's some confirmation that we both can actually visualize. So when you teach people about vision boards, what does that look like? Do you do an in-person class, a virtual class? How does that work?
I used to do the in-person classes, and then I found out a lot of people treated it because they didn't know any better as
Mhm.
an arts and crafts project.
Right,
And people would show up and say, "Oh, did you bring any magazines?" And then I would ask, "Well, don't you know what you want for goals?" And
right.
they say, "Well, we'll figure it out when we look through a magazine," and go, "Oh, that looks nice." So I
Yes.
stopped doing those. And I went back to my journals of how I had put my own life back together. And I thought, oh my gosh, there, just for example, there are 10 steps in my program, 10
Okay.
modules.
Okay.
You don't, the way that I teach this, you don't gather pictures until module 7. Everything else
Oh,
is
wow.
internal work. And to get away from the arts and crafts project and what I call the vision board starter kit, because I
Okay.
still, as many years as I've been doing this, people send me a picture. They go, Steve, I've got a vision board. And I'm like, send me the picture. And they do. And it's what I call the vision board starter kit. It's a Lamborghini, a yacht, a mansion, a private jet, a helicopter, a big honking gold watch, and a
Okay.
bank vault full of gold bars and
Okay.
piles of cash and a supermodel. And I
Okay.
always say the same thing. There's nothing wrong with any of these.
Mhm.
But It's a
Mhm.
beautiful letter to Santa Claus. But tell me a little more about who you want to become. It's not just what
Right.
you get, it's who you become.
Right.
And you actually hit upon this just a moment ago. I work with a life wheel, which is a pretty standard tool in the personal
Mhm.
development world. I've tweaked it to the way that I teach for the one that I use. And it includes 8 major areas of your life. And you just mentioned a couple of them.
Okay.
I believe we all need to set at least one goal per year for our physical health, our
Mhm.
emotional well-being. Imagine that, setting a goal for the emotions you want to feel every day. That's
Yes.
huge.
Yes.
Your closest relationships, your
Mhm.
core values that guide every thought, every word, and every action. That's your code of conduct, your integrity, your
Mhm.
faith, which is very similar, but the authority comes from a higher place.
Right.
Your connection to the world in real ways. And didn't that take a beating during the pandemic?
It did.
Loneliness, depression, isolation, addiction,
Yes.
so
Yes.
many anxiety out, through the roof
Right.
because we were missing connection. So I've got my clients now saying, all right, twice a month, I'm going to go on a date with my partner. Once or twice a week, I'm going to reach out to random people I haven't talked to in a while. I'm going to send them a message and tell them I'm thinking about them.
Oh, that's
That's
nice.
connection. And then your career and your money. So
Mhm.
all 8 of those areas are working together 24/7, whether or
Mhm.
not you're paying attention. So wouldn't it be a good idea to make each of those a part of your vision? And my clients are rocking
I
the
love that.
results. I love that. And we've got a hashtag that we use because a big part of what I teach is how life is like an old wooden roller coaster that you have to go click, 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 and do all the steps.
Mhm.
Whenever one of my clients has a little breakthrough, even a mini breakthrough on the way to a goal,
Mhm.
I get tagged on social media. Hey, Steve Gamlin, hashtag click, baby, click. And I
Oh,
reach out
I
and
love
I go,
that.
tell me what you did. Come on, lay it on me because it fires me up so much. I love to see people succeed.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to share this video and add the hashtag click baby click.
Click, baby,
I
click.
love it. I love the way you handle those situations. You are so positive. I remember one story where for me, everything in life is a story, but I taught a vision board class.
Mhm.
And the only reason that I was teaching this class is because a friend of mine had asked me to teach the class. And the way life happens, she had asked me a good deal ahead of time to teach this class. But one of my other friends passed away. So
Mm,
their funeral was the same day. So I
mm,
wound up going to a funeral in the morning and then kind of paying my respects and rushing back to teach the class. I didn't want to cancel the class because I had already committed to the class and they've been advertising marketing when we've been doing this for some time. So I'm teaching the class and we don't have half of those descriptions that you have. All we had is a table and some magazines and a board. That's
yeah.
what we had, right? So I was in a certain mood again, just having come from a funeral. So I'm telling people, let's create our goals, let's manifest what you want in life, yada yada. So I'm giving them specifics and trying to be positive. So everybody finished, and so we go around the table and everyone shows their board. So I get to one lady and she was like, I've done my board. Steve, don't judge me, I'm telling you the guy's honest truth. She showed me
Yep.
her board. She had put like the ocean and water and like just like things about nature, but then she had also put not I can even think of a mermaid. That was she was going to become a mermaid, and that was her goal to become a mermaid. And so I took her vision board and I tore her vision board in half, and I said, don't waste my time, do not waste my time. I'm like,
Wow.
I'm going through too much, it is not the day for you to sit here and play with me, right? So that's why I said don't judge me, Steve. But I
Yep.
was so like, I was
I
like,
understand.
you know what I mean? Like, come on now. We're trying to change lives and make things better. And I done left a funeral to come here and help people and be of service people. And you want to be a mermaid? Now, that's not, for all the mermaids out there, that's not a judgment on them. I'm not knocking the mermaids, but
Yep.
I don't think she was going to become a mermaid, Steve. I don't think
Yep.
she was.
Of course, the vision I get now is you later that year going to a Halloween parade or a costume parade and seeing a float go by and going, oh my gosh, she's a mermaid. Dang.
I don't know. I don't know.
Only because I know somebody who actually rented a mermaid costume one time for a parade, which is
I
why I'm laughing.
no. I mean, I could have, like you said, Steve, there are situations when we could have handled it better,
Oh,
handled
yeah.
it different. I could have given her a motivation speak on how to channel if she loves mermaids into mermaid products, or maybe she needs to make mermaid costumes or mermaid floats or whatever. But this was more of a serious kind of, let's set goals. Let's look at items. Let's put the things that we want to achieve in life as our vision board. And the whole thing I saw was, you are wasting my time. You are
Yeah.
wasting my time.
Yeah. But
So
look at where your mindset was that day.
yes,
So,
yes.
there's an asterisk on that one. You're not a bad person for having done that.
Thank you.
And
Thank
I
you, Steve.
love that you're a storyteller like I'm a storyteller. That's how I
Yes.
share. And you spoke earlier about that, about being authority of what you do because of our, your track record, and you're passionate about it and all of this.
Mhm,
I still, even 22 years in as a speaker, every once in a
mhm,
while, somebody comes out to me real snotty.
mhm,
What qualifies you to do this? Are you
mhm.
licensed by the International Coaching Federation? Nope. Are you a licensed therapist? Nope. You a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist? Nope. Well, what qualifies you to do this? I've got a little chalkboard here in my recording studio. And one day I looked at it and I grabbed a piece of chalk and I wrote, "This guy lived it." And I
Mm,
drew an arrow and I put it next to my head, making sure the arrow was pointing at my head, took a selfie and sent it to them. And I said, "This is what qualifies me."
amen.
And and
Amen.
and just for emphasis, I put my favorite hashtag in the world next to it. Hashtag up yours. That's my exclamation point at that once it gets to that point of snottiness, I'm like, I'm gonna send something back over the net at you here.
Right.
And
No, I love
it's
those
not
things.
offensive, but it always makes people laugh. So hashtag up yours.
Sometimes you have to. Some Steve, that's why I tell people I spend a lot of time in prayer and meditation. I think I posted that the other day. I was like, my challenge is I want to be spiritual and kick people's ass sometime. So
Yeah.
you gotta kind of, okay, let me move to the spiritual side. Let
Yeah.
me focus on being spiritual, because
Yeah.
that's you know
Yeah. That would
that's
make
the
an
way.
amazing bumper sticker, by the way, for your vehicle. I'm
Maybe I should.
spiritual and I kick ass.
Maybe I should. Maybe I should. I'm trying to do the whole Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. nonviolence thing, but sometimes people just,
Yeah.
people just bring that side out of you.
Yeah.
And it is so funny because my whole life, everything I share on social media. So whenever I have these instances that happen, I always share them. And so sometimes I'm like looking for trouble. I'm looking for these stories, because I'm like, okay, if you take me there, not only do I have to go there, but I'm about to tell this funny story that we're all going to laugh about what happened when you took me there. So I can completely I like you, Steve. I like your energy, right? Because
Yeah.
people ask me that sometime about my qualifications, and especially when I was a politician and running for political office, they were like, "What degrees do you have?" You have to have a degree in order to be a politician. No, that's not what it says. It basically literally says I have to be over 18, I have to be a resident, and I have to be reading, and I qualify.
Mhm. There you go. And you have a heart that wants to make a difference in a positive
Excellent.
way.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I definitely relate, Steve. So let's see what else is going on with you. Let's see what's in the cards. Since we're both visual people, Steve,
Mhm.
we're going to see what's in the cards. Have you had a reading before?
Years ago, it's been at least a decade.
Okay, well, that means it's time for you to have another one. I always ask people that because
Yeah.
every reader is different.
Yep.
And my mom says I do it yourself reading, a DIY reading,
Yep.
because a lot of readers, and this is another reason why I wanted to do this show this way, is because, again, I'm being redundant. My mom told me 20 years ago to do this, and you should always listen to mom. But I had to grow into it,
Yep.
but even now, I can't see myself sitting in the little room just talking to people about their situation, or just really talking to people. So I
Yeah.
said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this my way. I'm going to do this live. I'm going to do this where other people can chime in, where other people can learn from it, you know, and that makes it fun for me. It makes it more entertaining to than to just be like, oh, Steve, I see right here, you're about to win the lottery. See, everybody has to hear that. The whole world has to hear that.
Yeah. And there's so many interpretations of the lottery,
Yes.
to people. And of course, Powerball just hit a couple of billion again recently.
Okay.
And I used to see the people in line at 7-Eleven, 150 people deep. And there's the youngest news reporter from the local TV station is there holding a microphone saying, if you win, what are you going to do? And everybody goes, I'm going to help the homeless. And I'm thinking, no, see, you're just bribing God for lottery numbers, because if
Right.
you lose, you're not going to help the homeless. So why don't you
Right.
just become a genuine person
And help the homeless.
and help the homeless? Because once you start making connections with hearts and souls,
Hmm.
you're going to feel like you won the lottery. I'm one of the most blessed human beings on the planet. I truly am.
Oh,
Despite the things that have been going on in my life over the past uh, over the past 7 years, I've had 4 people very close to me pass away. My businesses
oh,
both got wiped out by the pandemic. I
oh.
inhaled toxic black mold through a vent in my office ceiling for 2 years before we figured it out. And just everything. But yet I still count myself as one of the most blessed human beings on the planet.
You are here, and I'm add me to that count. Add
Yeah.
me to that count. Just your positive energy, your positive attitude. I can completely relate to that, because everything is not money and everything is not financial. So let's see what it says. So I've been shuffling since the beginning of the show.
Mhm.
That's does 3 things for me. Number one is my sign to spirit that I'm going to do a reading. Number two, it clears the energy from anybody I have read for in the past. And number three, because I'm shuffling, it allows me to kind of concentrate and focus and tune in and tap into your energy. Okay.
Mm. Yeah.
So the first card is always your issue. That's the main theme that's running through your life. So out of 78 cards, this is the one message that is for you right now, right? And that is the 3 of Cups. The 3 of Cups.
Okay.
Right? So what does the 3 of Cups mean, Steve? Any idea? No.
No.
I
I'm
never
not,
asked
I'm not
that.
even going to make up something. No. I don't
Sometimes
drink alcohol anymore, so I know it's not rum, Coke, and ice. So no.
oh, it's so funny. I just make up stuff as I go along. That's what makes it a podcast. It makes it so entertaining. And when you were telling me your story about when you were on stage and you were saying all those horrible things about yourself, I said, see, if you were a stand-up comedian, it probably would have worked, because you have some kind of comedy to you. That's how, that's why I'm relating. People always like, Sharifa, you need to be a comedian. I'm like, no, I'm a host, because then if I'm funny, I'm funny. But if I'm not obligated to be funny, and I don't get booed. So
Yeah.
sometimes I just throw random stuff out there just to see what happens. So
Yeah.
your main issue is the 3 of Cups. Okay.
Mhm.
So cups are about feelings. Cups are about emotions. Some aspects of it is about love, but it doesn't have to be about love for another person. Okay. It's
Mhm.
also a 3. 3 are what they call minor arcana. Arcana means mysteries or secrets of the world, secrets of the universe. So tarot is called the Fool's Journey. The reason it's called the Fool's Journey is there's an expression that God protects fools and infants. The reason he protects them is because those are the only 2 people on earth that don't think they know everything. So in life, this journey, the journey of life, we should be open like the fool, open and innocent, right? So major arcana cards are major life lessons. These are things that change the course of history. Those are your marriages, your births, your divorces, your deaths, right? Things where is clearly defined that life will never be the same. Then you have minor arcana cards. These are minor things that happen throughout the course of life. These are things that happen to you today, right? You probably love being on my show. You love being on Read Me Live, but 20 years from now, you won't be like, you know what? That Read Me Live was the best show ever, right? Maybe I might be wrong. I'm just saying, right? So minor arcana cards are always 0 to 10. So you look at it like a scale, 10 being completion. So if you're at a 3, this represents that you're at the beginning of the journey, because fives are always your challenges. Fives are your halfway points, where 10 is completion. Three is you got a little while to go. But three of cups, in the cups, it begins with the ace, right? So aces in cup, ace of cups is about self-love. It's about loving yourself. And see, you've learned that lesson. You know how to love yourself. Then once you learn how to love yourself, then you have the ability to love someone else. So then you move into the two of cups. And then after you love somebody else, then it, I always say it's like that song, first comes love, then comes marriage, then comes baby in the baby carriage. Once those two are there, then it can multiply out. Scripture says when any two are joined in my name, God is the third. So the three is always about becoming more. It represents that happy time, that marriage, that where more people are gathered. So right now, this is about good times. It's about the happiness that's about more than just you. It includes other people as well. Okay. So that's the main issue. That's the main thing, because the next card that you have is the Nine of Cups. Mm-hmm. And the Nine of Cups is the wish card. And that means that you either have or you will receive your wish, whatever it is that you've been desiring, wanting, building to. It's the wish card, right? The other aspect of the Nine of Cups is the slight challenge. And I always say challenge. You like that word, Steve? Challenge.
Yeah, I love the word challenge. I do.
The word challenge, the slight challenge is be careful what you wish for, right? Because for someone who is a powerful manifester, they could manifest anything. So what are you manifesting? So be clear on if you do it, that is for your highest good, if that makes sense.
Very crystal clear, and I'll explain after the reading. Oh yeah, you're 2 for 2 on perfect timing.
Okay. Then your next card is the Two of Swords, right? So again, so far though, if nothing else, you have 3 minor arcana cards, which basically means that as of right now, there aren't any necessarily major shifts. It's just these are things that happen throughout the course of the day. So the Two of Swords, which again is that young energy, meaning young as far as in relation to the 10, it's about decisions. So yeah, you may have a minor decision, which again can be about what you want to manifest. Decide what you want to manifest. Decide what you want to bring into your life, and then make a choice. Okay, because the next card that you have is the Five of Cups. The Five of Cups is about, there is some aspect of loss. Mm-hmm. There are 3 cups that are down. His head is down, but the thing is, there's water. Water always symbolizes new life, new hope, renewal. Right? But in addition to that, it's the Five of Cups. Only 3 cups are face down. The 2 cups are in the air with the heavens, and they're full, and they're behind him, which basically means he doesn't see them. He doesn't see what is there, because he's so focused on what he's lost. He's focused on what he doesn't have and not on what he still has. Okay? Mm-hmm. Because the next card that you have is the Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords. Mm-hmm. So the Knight of Swords, there are court cards as well as the major and minor arcana. So the court cards are either aspects of yourself or people around you. So the knights are always the energy of someone who's between the ages of usually about 20 and 25, mm-hmm. right? So it's that energy for me of someone who just graduated college. They just graduated university. They just got their degree. So at 20 or 25, they got their degree and they know everything. Only to get to 55 and realize you didn't know anything, right? Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. You could have never have done what you're doing now without that experience at the radio station, without that moment, that 5th day where you like, oh my God. See, it's those little incidents that change the course of history. Those moments where if not for this, then I wouldn't have that. Right. Yeah. So even though the knight is always about setting out on a new journey, he's trying to prove himself. He has to go out into the world. Now there are no guarantees as far as where he's going to wind up, but there's no way for him not to take this journey. He has to go out into the world. So swords are always new ideas or thoughts. So it's about going in a new direction or going in a different direction with new ideas that you are materializing and bringing to life. Does that make sense?
Crystal clear. Yes,
Okay, so
absolutely.
the next card that you have, and with this is at least good. I mean, not that the other ones were bad, but the King of Swords,
Mhm.
right? And the King of Swords is right next to, right, basically after the Knight of Swords. So that means what that represents is progress. It's symbolic of progress, that you were the Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords goes out into battle. That's what he does. He goes out into the world to this is the person who's starting a new business, right? The person who's taking that idea and starting on the path. Whereas the King of Swords, he already has his castle. He already has his queen. He already has his domain to rule over. The king is established, right? And so swords are always about information. They're always about knowledge. And so the only difference between the Queen of Swords and the King of Swords is that the queen is just more maternal. She's just the feminine aspect. But both the queen and the king both not only know, but they know that they know. They know they have the information. They know what to do. Now, I always say the only challenge with the Queen and King of Swords is there's a difference between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And sometimes when we focus on the letter of the law, we can miss the spirit of the law, right? So I always say, okay, I'm not saying you're wrong, but just have a little compassion, have a little heart when you deal with other people or when you deliver the message, okay? Or when you work with other people as well. Just whatever it is, just remember to have a heart, because judgment, I think, is your first major arcana card, the first major lesson that comes in. And judgment is about is not only, it's about the rewards of hard work. You know, it's not a literal reaping what you sow, but it's about this is the work that you've done. And as a direct result of what you've done in the past, this is where you are. This is what you manifest. This is what you bring to life. But again, the one of the strongest messages that I'm getting from everything that you're doing is where you are right now is obviously sometimes these things sound obvious, but it's because of the hard work you put in the past. These are not you won the lottery, you just somebody gave. No, you have put in the work. You have earned your stripes in order for you to be where you are right now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because the next card that you have is the Nine of Wands. And so the Nine of Wands is about creativity, right? And so the Nine of Wands is so close to the Ten of Wands. Again, we talk about completion. They had all the challenges in the Five of Wands. They had all the challenges in the Seven of Wands. So there aren't challenges ahead of them. But what happens when we've been going through something and doing something for so long, we get very tired. We like, oh my God, like, are we at the promised land yet? Sometimes we're wandering around in the desert for 40 years and we like, wait a minute, I could have just went over there, poop, and did that. So the Nine of Wands is always about giving it that last final push. You know, like you're almost there. Don't give up when you get to the finish line, because the finish line, the shore, everything is in sight. Like you worked too hard to get here to be like, you know what? I don't think I can do it. I don't even think those words are in your vocabulary, Steve. But I'm just saying, like, if you keep going, that's what I'm saying. Keep going, because the next card that you have is the Two of Wands. So you see how we went from the Nine of Wands to the Two of Wands. So the Two of Wands is on the path of the wands, meaning action, meaning career. The two is at the very beginning. The two is when you just start out. So the two is the one who, without the two, you can never even get to the king. You can't become the king without going through the two, because the two is about initiative. And the two, which is, I always say the Eight of Wands is my favorite, one of my favorite, all-time favorite cards in the deck, because the Eight of Wands is about new opportunities. And those opportunities come to you as a direct result of what you've done in the past. But again, you can never get to the 8 without becoming the 2. So the 2 is about stepping out there on faith. The 2 is about taking action, movement, like move your feet. That's the 2 of wands card. Don't just sit there and be like, oh, they just gonna call me and be like, oh, here's what we giving you, Steve. No, you got to get out there, you got to grind, you got to hustle, and you got to make it happen. So I did a 10 card reading. Number 1 is your issue. I don't give all the different positions and all of that, but the last one is the 10th one is the final outcome. And so the final outcome says, Sharifa, you done did all that. You done went around rambling and all of that. At the end of the day, what does Steve need to know on the current path that he's on? He is going to hit the lottery. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. Don't quote me on that, but it's the Wheel of Fortune.
Yep.
The Wheel of Fortune. And the Wheel of Fortune, again, being a major arcana card, is a very blessed card. It basically means that the gods are blessing you. But even these blessings, the most important thing about the Wheel of Fortune is that it's not something that's in your control. It's not something that you make happen. This is sometimes the gods just be like, boop, there you go, Steve. That's one for you, right? That's the energy of the Wheel of Fortune. So what I'm getting from this whole thing and what I'm reading is, you know what to do. You know what to do. And I think you know that you know what to do. I don't see like you got to really go in a different direction, but take action, move forward. And then once you move forward and you give it that final push, the gods will bless you. God will bless you and your endeavors. But I don't see a lot of changes or going in a lot of directions. But again, with the 5 of Cups, it's about looking at the bright side, looking at what you have, look at your abilities, look at, who you are, and find strength in that. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, 100%. And I can, and let me know when you'd like to hear the story of what's going on in my life right now that this is all perfectly placed for.
Because 2 seconds, and not that you're going too fast, because I always ask the same question. Number 1, if it resonated with you. So you said it resonated with you. And then I always ask if you have any questions.
Actually, I don't.
Okay.
Every card in order and the way you explained each one
Okay.
made perfect sense to me for the situation that my life is going through at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. So we got to get the on-air version of the story.
Yeah. The greatest manifestation and visualization I ever created for myself. I spent 2 or 3 years in the early 2000s creating my dream relationship, and spent a couple of years becoming the best version of myself that I felt I needed to be to attract this perfect partner.
Right.
And in early 07, I put up that year's vision board, which was couples enjoying, holding hands at the railing of a ship at sunset, walking hand in hand on a beach, cooking a meal together in the kitchen and laughing. And in early June of 2007, I wrote in my journal, I'm ready to fall in love. And on June 16th, about 10 days later, I got an email that I nearly deleted as spam, which I realized later that day. I said, oh my gosh, I have to go back and open that. It was from a woman with whom I had gone to high school. We had not seen or talked to each other at that point in 21 years. She was living in Florida by then. And she said, hey, I saw your name online. We should keep in touch. And a month later, phone calls, texts, and emails without even a picture of her, because she would not send me one, nor did she have any social media footprint anywhere. I mean, she was Google proof and everything.
Who is this lady? Yes.
And I started to remember I'd had a crush on her in high school and never asked her out. And a month after that initial email, she sent me a text and said, can I tell you something if you promise not to freak out? And I said, sure. Here's how I felt about you back in high school. Here's how I felt about you when I saw your name online. Here's how I felt when you answered my email. Here's how I felt when I heard your voice. Here's how I feel right now. And she texted 143, which I had to look up. It's text code for I love you. She'd had a crush on me in high school too.
That is so beautiful.
And we enjoyed 6,386 days in love, head over heels, the most amazing relationship ever. We literally brought a fairy tale to life. And December 9th of last year, we flew to England for a 5-day vacation. And 24 hours later, she unexpectedly passed away from heart disease. And she literally died in my arms.
That is not how this story is supposed to end.
No, but here's the thing.
Okay.
In January of 2023, after a couple of very rough years for my business, I mean, it got wiped out, everything. And I was depressed and 3 deaths at that point of people close to me.
Mhm.
She came and gave me a big hug in our living room and put her head on my chest and looked up and said, "Honey, can I ask you a big favor?" I said, "Sure, baby. What?" She said, "Can this be the year that you get famous again so I can quit my job and find something less stressful?"
Mm.
And so since December, I'm still living in our home. She is still very present here at all times. And I have been doing the grief podcast circuit around the world. I will be on stage at grief conferences. I have already created a keynote speech for financial planners and insurance people, talking about the dangers of not finishing your paperwork, of not being officially married, of not writing your wills, of not designating beneficiaries, and everything that has been literally a struggle for me since the day Tina passed. I have done every ounce of work.
Mhm.
And all of these opportunities are now showing up. The irony of it was I had to lose her to be able to do this.
Mhm.
But this is now a growing, in addition to the visualization and keynote speaking, this is now going to be a significant part of my business, is helping other people who are more fresh in their grief or their pain or their struggles. Going back to my chalkboard, this guy lived it. So it's just everything you just said about being partway through the journey and taking everything that you've done in the past and putting it into action to take those next steps, and the king of already working so hard and mastering your craft and then taking it to the next level and then going back to it too, because it's a new road for me in some ways
Right.
for some of these new topics. And I found joy in that reading. So,
Well,
and
thank you.
inspiration. Thank you.
You about to make me cry, Steve. I'm like, I thought, I mean, and I get it because, you know, and that's one of the things that they always say you're not supposed to do. You know, when somebody's like, oh, I lost this person, you're like, let me tell you about this person I lost. You know, because everybody has their own pain, everybody has their own grief. But I am so resonating with you and just what you're saying. You know,
Yeah.
2007. I thought my story was going to end different. The guy I met when I was in the third grade, he was in the fourth grade.
No.
Our families were friends for years, but we weren't dating. We just, were around. And then in 2005, we reconnected. We were dating. And in 2000 and early 2007, he told me he had cancer and he was telling me about all his symptoms. And I said, boy, stop Googling that. I'm like, you ain't nothing gonna happen. You not going anywhere. You gonna be here. And in 2007, he passed away. And in my head, I had this whole vision of our lives and what it was going to look like. And so when you were telling me, how you reconnected and the emails and going on trips and 5 days, I'm like, I know this story is about to end with a wedding. I thought it was, you were like, and we just got married yesterday, Sharifa. Oh,
Yeah.
that's what, but I understand that you got to experience it,
Yeah.
that you got to live through it, that you cannot speak to anybody else. That's what I was saying earlier. I've been laid off 8 times. I raised 2 kids. I've been divorced twice. I done lost people that are close to me. So that gives me the qualifications to be able to talk to people. So I understand, but you know what? That's why God is going to bless you. And prior to it, when I was talking about winning the lottery, it was such an excellent point that you made, that you said is not just about the financial aspect, right? It's about going out and doing those things. And if any card in the deck symbolizes winning the lottery, I always use the Wheel of Fortune. So, and the reason I do that is because the lottery is a prime example of something that you cannot manipulate, you cannot control. Some things God just has to be like, it's your time, right? So especially we know when we have loved ones, dear loved ones on the other side, that they are here to help us and to guide us, and all of a sudden doors just open and blessings just pour forth from the heavens, because everyone and everything is working together towards our highest good. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing that. I'm just getting emotional, which I don't like because I'm feeling it. But we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching this show live, as well as everyone who is watching in the archives, and let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance here today.
The biggest thing is know who you are. And I mentioned earlier, if you got to take pen to paper and go somewhere quiet and just write down, get it all out, or look in your mirror. I start off every morning, give myself a high five in the mirror, and I look at myself and say, I love you. Even if there are days I didn't always believe it, it would make me smile. And I always say the same thing because you're a good dude with a big heart. So start every day by honoring yourself. Be kind to yourself. You're the only you've got. And you've got all the most amazing gifts in the world. So every day, find something about yourself to be grateful for. I've kept a gratitude journal 14 and a half years. I write down 3 things every morning that I'm grateful for from the previous day. And they are as specific and emotionally connected as possible. And if you do that even for 7 days, look in the mirror and just think, what am I grateful for from yesterday? And just so you know, tomorrow morning, this podcast is going to be in my gratitude journal. So if you can give the greatest gift you can give to your future self is something you're grateful for today, I encourage you to please do that. And it's going to help you to create the vision of your best life.
I love it. I think that's wonderful advice. I remember through my hardest times, I would look at them in the mirror and I would go, Sharifa, I love you and God loves you. And if nobody else loves you, that's enough. And then one of the things that I learned is I would be like, oh, and then your children love you. Your parents love you. And then by the time I finished, I had this 10-mile long list of people who love me. So that's the thing. Sometimes we feel so unloved, but there's so much love in the world, you know. And I think it also goes back to your definition of when they were saying people who win the lottery always say that they're going to help the homeless, right? Okay, well, find someone to love, because they're, you know, if we all love each other, then we all won't feel alone. So I want to thank you, Steve, for just being incredible, just being the man that you are, but for being a guest on today's episode of Read Me Live. I also want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch the show live, as well as everyone who watches it in the archive. Now, if you want to be right there where Steve is and have your own reading, visit my website at readmelive.com. Until next time, everyone have a safe and a blessed day. Bye now.